Okay, welcome to session 15. This is on Win the Seller. Have you had an opportunity to look at any of the YouTube videos
I
on
looked at
that?
some, and I also looked in that orientation where they gave us, yeah, I did look at some.
Okay.
Only maybe about two of them.
Okay. And Chris, you kind of started midway. How's it been
Yes.
going for you?
Things are going good. I looked at a couple of the previous ones, but I've just been sticking to each week, and then I'm gonna towards the end go through the beginning ones.
Gotcha. Well, the meat is really at the end. The beginning is more on database stuff, and then it gets into prospecting and marketing. And then this, of course, is working with each type of client. So, let's see. We have gone through all of this. We only have 5 sessions left. So exciting. Today, we're going to talk about A, sellers, and at this point, we should know what that is. Getting the appointment, the pre-listing packet, your listing appointment, and then your listing agreement. And why should we focus on listings? I say this all the time.
It's good to hear this.
You said, why should we focus on listings?
Yes. Why are listings important?
Because that's really what, to me, that's what drives it. If nobody's selling their house, how are we gonna find buyers to buy houses? That's how I interpret it. Without people
And
willing to sell.
that's so true, right? We don't have inventory without sellers. The other beautiful thing, and why Gary Keller talks about this leads, listings, leverage, is you can only get one piece of business from a buyer. But from a listing, you can list their house, you can
Mhm.
refer them or help them buy a new house. That's 2 pieces of business. You can capture the buyer for the house and potentially even sell the buyer's house. That from 1 to 4 does not ever work with a buyer. If you're helping them buy, you're not ever gonna run into 4 other pieces of business with them. It also gives you something to market. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that today. While leads are vital to your sales business, seller listings are critical to your ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and highest net. So true. All right, so A, qualified sellers. That is someone able, ready, and willing to do business in the next 14 days. And we talked about how important that ready, willing, and able is. We say that in pre-license. This is pretty much the only thing that sticks with you every deal from pre-license, other than like don't break the law. But ready, willing, and able. It seems so like, oh, just work with someone ready, willing, and able, but it gets down to the motivation and the capability. Because someone might be able, but not ready and willing. Somebody might be willing, which we run into a lot. They're not able, which means they're not ready. So it's a lot more important than us glossing over and saying working someone ready, willing, and able. 14 days. All right, we talked about the 3 L's from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. It's leads, listings, and leverage. And it's in that order. Why do you think it's leads, listings, then leverage?
Well, you need to generate leads in order to get these listings.
Mm-hmm.
And then the listings create the leverage. As far as leverage, I'm not too sure what.
Yes, well, that's true. So it's kind of twofold. Once you have listings, it gives you leverage to get more business. It gives you leverage to spend your time how you want to. With a buyer, you're always shuttling them around. You're the chauffeur. With listings, you can take 10 listings and go on a cruise. You can handle everything. With a buyer, you cannot do that. But having that gives you leverage to not only market yourself, to get market share, because your face is in people's yards, right, with your signs. But then it allows you the ability to hire leverage, to have somebody then you can hire to do showings for you, to do marketing for you, to do transactions for you, because you're focused on getting listing leads. Does that make sense? And that's the model that Gary Keller teaches us. So I hear new agents all the time go, I can help you find your dream home. That's not the message that we want to have, because that's telling everybody what? you're open for buyer clients.
Hmm.
If you say, hey, I can help you cash in the equity on your home, would you like to find out what your equity is in your home? I can help you get top dollar for your home. Then that, of course, they would need to move. So you're gonna help them find their next home, but it allows you to hold that conversation and say, you're looking for sellers. All right, virtues of seller listings. We talked about this a little bit. Seller listings mean marketing opportunities. You have something to say to somebody. You have more control on your time. We talked about that. Seller listings maximize your per hour compensation. So true. Volume. So it helps you control your volume. And then with seller listings, you're on the front end of pricing, as opposed to putting in an offer, hoping that your offer is selected. You know, at the end of the day, as a seller's agent, the listing agent, that you're going to receive an offer, you're going to go to closing, right? But if you're one of many, you're not on the front end of that, right? And then properly marketed seller listings bring you more business. We discussed that. All right, so the seller service cycle, we convert our leads. We have a pre-listing conversation or appointment. We do a listing consultation. We offer servicing and marketing. We do offers and negotiations. We contract to close, and then we have post-close systems. Why are post-close systems important?
I would assume just to make sure that you're doing, everything correctly before you actually go to close.
Well, no, this is after
the
closing.
it's
Yeah.
post-close.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, it's
Is
because we want clients for life,
Okay,
right?
okay.
We don't want to just do a deal and walk away from it. So we close with them. We ask them how everything's going after they've moved in.
Okay.
We check in with them quarterly, make sure they did their homestead, because that could save them.
So it's just really keeping the connection.
It really is
relationship.
building the relationship and maintaining it. What are your ahas so far from this little segment here?
Well, first you want to go first?
well, to me, it's just the breaking down of everything, like that whole, for example, that triangle with the leverage and all that. It makes sense. And also the post, like keeping up with your, after the closing is
Right.
done, keeping
Mhm.
up with them, maintaining that rapport, because it's true that, more business could lead to it.
Well, and to you guys, so there's a thing called like orphaned clients. And so oftentimes what these top producing teams will do, and this is the importance of a database, is they'll take that CD and put the other side's information in their database, because that agent sitting across from them at closing is probably not going to keep up with them.
Okay.
So yes, they had an agent, but what was it, like 74% of people would use their agent if they could remember their name again. So it's so important to do that, and just to have a post-close system. Not only are you going to ask for referrals, but you're going to stay in touch with them, check in and make sure everything's going well with their new home. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all those things. And it's just maintaining that relationship.
Just working with the seller period and how you went over the leads listing and leverage, more so than working with the buyers, because and the number of transactions you could possibly get from a seller versus a buyer. A buyer's one, the seller is potentially
Could be potentially many, and that's how we need to treat it. So if one can have a 4 times multiplier, then why wouldn't we work and cater our business to that? And so, we just don't think that. And I don't know where the mental block came from, or where everybody came in the door talking about, I don't know if it's HGTV, I don't know. I'll help you find your dream home. Okay. One, the cards are stacked against us in this market because there's not that much inventory. So finding somebody's dream home is a lot harder than you're gonna think. And then 2, sitting across from somebody and giving them hard numbers because they have a property, they have an asset, that's not fishing in the dark, right? You're literally, and if they take it or leave it, that's fine, but you could have infinite number of those appointments. You would never run out of those appointments. Just sharing with people the equity they have in their home. So it shows your value really clearly in doing that. That's not that. Okay. let's see. All right, let's talk about getting the appointment. So your A sellers are those that could do business in the next 2 weeks. You respond right away to lead inquiries. Get valid and complete contact information, save it in command, create the opportunity. Opportunity means opportunity for business. So you go ahead and start that file then. You want to determine their motivation to sell so you can speak to it. That's where that pre-listing questionnaire comes in. You set an appointment, a time and date for as soon as possible and send them pre-listing packet. So we're going to talk about what's in a pre-listing packet here in a minute. Why would you not just go take the listing?
Well, I would think we want to know as much information as possible before going in, and we're sending in that pre-listing packet. You're well aware and it's some information that you need to research or things that you would need to ask and follow up on. You would have all the pertinent information right before you.
Well, and you need to kind of show them what to expect, right? So that when you meet, they have an understanding of what you guys are going to be talking about. They have, you kind of set the terms of what it is you're going to be bringing. It gives them something tangible to hold on to. And in this competitive market, they may be interviewing multiple agents. Again, just remember, other agents probably going to be lazy. So any little thing that you can do to set yourself apart, that's what you want to do. All right, so what sellers want most from their agent? This was from the 2021 Profile of Home Buyers and Sellers from NAR. They want to help price their home competitively and help market home to potential buyers. They want help selling the home within their specific time frame. They want the help the seller find ways to fix up the home, and then other. Is this surprising to you what people want? What the data shows?
I feel like that's reasonable. Based off like conversations I've had with people that were trying to sell their house, finding their motivation. I feel like when I hear their motivation, it kind of ties into a section of this chart, more or less.
Yeah. Well, and typically when people want to buy, that ready, willing, and able, the willing, they have a time frame. They either have a time frame or a dollar sign. So they either want to net X amount of dollars or they need to be out by X amount of days. And so, of course, what needs to be done, this, that, and the other. We had a great meeting this year with an appraiser that came in and kind of broke down what different additions and different upgrades would reflect on the equity side of it. And that was really, really good. So just kind of having a base knowledge of that. You know, even my mom the other day was talking about all these remodels she's done her house, and when she sells it, she wants to get that back. And I was like, hey, that's not how that works. It's not how that works. You did the remodels for you. You like them. You've lived in them, but you don't get the cash out. So yes, does it help market a property? Yes, is it a great addition? But it's not going to be a dollar for dollar. Oh, I put $20,000 in this roof. Well, you do have to replace the roof in the house you live in. That's not, you're not going to get additional $20,000 on the sale price. But they do want to know, and you can say things like that, not the way I said them to my mom, but you can say things to say, hey, you know, here's kind of the facts of what really does add value to your home. And really, it has a lot to do with what's happening in the market. So keeping up with what's going on in the market is super important. All right, to build confidence and trust. Why is this important?
You definitely want the seller or anyone you're working with to trust you, put their trust in you. And that's just with following through with everything that you say. Even if it's the slightest thing and you don't have an answer immediately, you need to at least call back or let them know what's going on. So that starts immediately, building trust with the potential client. So it's important. If I don't trust you, I don't want to do business.
Right, especially on one of the biggest things.
in your life.
So how do you build confidence with somebody that you don't know?
You got to have it within yourself first.
Ooh, Chris dropping bombs.
What did
He
he say?
said you gotta have it within yourself first.
Oh, yeah, well, it's true.
It is true. Well, you're
Mm.
confident in what the value you provide.
Yeah.
And you're conveying that and making sure that they understand what it is you offer. And honestly, people that don't choose to do business with you guys, don't take it personally.
Yeah.
They probably weren't the right person for you.
Exactly.
And the people that seem like the right people are sometimes can be a headache, but you don't want to work with everybody. And that's why it's so important to have those conversations every day, 10 conversations, putting people in your database, because eventually it will bear fruit.
And
It's
it
like a
does
garden.
feel,
Count up.
you feel comfortable with talking about it,
Mhm.
and that's building your confidence in it.
Oh, the more repetitive, time over task. All right, so 7 close to appointment tactics. You want to show the benefit. We talked about these the other day. The take back close, the negative positive close. You want to give them what they're looking for. Trial close, assumptive close, and tie down close. And I don't have a notebook in here. Let me see, because I've got some examples of that. If I can find the script. No. Pull it up on my phone real quick. One second, y'all, I'll pull up some examples of these. I don't have my binder here. Why is this not pulling up, y'all? Okay, so I know there's an Ignite script book though that breaks down these scripts, but they had examples in the buyer section of like what each one of these tactics look like. But you definitely, my son is really good with the assumptive close.
Really?
Wouldn't that be great, mommy, if we did this?
Really?
Isn't it a perfect day for a smoothie?
Uh-huh.
I'm like, mm-hmm. So that's kind of, you're getting someone to agree with you. Would you be offended, that whole trial close? Would you be offended if I, invited you to an appointment? Showing the benefit of, helping them. The take back is always, I'm not sure if I could help you, but I'd love to meet with you. So it's like saying, well,
The whole
Right.
objective is to be able to get a meeting.
right. And every conversation you have is to try to get appointments with people ready, willing, and able. So I think that, for me, when I got my license, I was so scared to talk to anybody because I felt like I didn't know anything about the market, which I didn't have anybody teaching me about the market. But I would just be like, they'd be like, how's the market? I'm like, good. And then I'll like walk away as quickly as possible. And so that's not what to do. Do not do that. You have as many conversations as you can, and you answer as many questions you can. You tell people that you're helpful and you're looking for sellers and buyers. Don't hide like I did, the little scared
How
rabbit.
long was it before you sold your first house?
Well, so for me, I was doing property management.
Which is always good because it gives
well-
you some knowledge. No,
I mean, I knew how to do property management and I didn't know how to break into sales, but the market had ticked up. And so some of those properties, those owners were ready to get out of management.
Oh,
Like
okay.
they didn't want to do rentals anymore. And a lot of them were like military that had bought when the market was good in 07. And then when me in 2015, 2016, got their license, I got my license, they were like, hey, because the market had picked back up again, wasn't a home run. So a lot of those, were how I got into it. It's probably how I was feeling more comfortable working with sellers. That's what I was doing. I was talking to them anyway. I already had, relationship and, conversations with them. Now I paid dearly to the referral from the property management company and all that, but, that's how I did. It's people wanting to cash in on their equity, basically. It was people that never really wanted to rent, but they got themselves in a situation where they needed to.
Okay.
And so when the market was looking a little bit better, that was their question. It's like, is now a good time? And so I would just do basically CMAs on every property at the time.
Mhm.
Okay, so questions versus objections. When someone asks a question, of course, you answer it, or you say, I'm unsure, let me get back with you. When an objection comes up, you address it. So what is an objection?
Let's see.
So basically, object to what someone is saying. Address it like,
An objection is anything that's not a yes.
okay.
So if someone says, yeah, but I don't think my house is worth that, or yeah, but Zillow said it's worth $8 billion. That's that objection. When you're talking to somebody and, you may be talking about the market, this, that, and the other. Well, I heard blah, blah, blah. It's in opposition of what you're saying.
Okay.
And so how do you think you handle an objection or address an objection?
And it depends on the conversation.
Yeah.
It just depends on also my knowledge of it. So I would want to be well equipped when going in to speak to someone, because if they're objecting something that I'm not really knowledgeable on, I would, especially with me being new, I'm probably gonna feel a little uncomfortable, but we'll try to address it as much as possible.
Well, that's where the confidence comes into,
Yeah.
you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, you being a hairdresser, somebody comes to you and says, I'm gonna dye my own hair.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think you want to do that. Here's the reason why.
And that's exactly what you do in an objection. When someone says, I'm thinking about just listing this property myself. I don't want to pay a commission. That's an objection and you need to handle it. And it's not that you're aggressive. It's not that you're rude. Chris, you've kind of learned the hard way talking to for sale by owners.
Yes.
They're a stubborn bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and that's where handling the objection or addressing it is, again, showing our value. Yes, they can do it, but should they do it? Yes, I can dye my own hair, but should I? Probably not, right? And so that's kind of where us showing our value, us providing information and educating people, that's going to be that same situation as like, listen, I don't want you to go through this. Right? That's the mindset we need to have, is we're just really educating people.
And I think a good example, especially if you've gone through it, because I tried to do it myself in my first time, and I failed miserably at it, and it wasn't good. So is it good to share similar stories?
Oh, for sure. I would. If
Okay.
I tried listing my house, I would. And then other people's experiences. The more training and things you'll come to hear, you'll hear different scenarios and say, oh, I was just at the office and somebody was talking about blah, 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 blah. If you're gonna work with for sale by owners, you kind of have to have conversations geared towards them. So look up the statistics. I think it's like they lose 30% value. They don't want to pay 3%, but they're gonna undercut themselves 30%. I think everybody thinks it's so simple. You put a sign in the yard, you work with it. Well, in this market, one, you want to evaluate it properly. Okay. Two, you want to market it properly. Three, you want to make sure buyers are approved coming in your home and they're secure, because anybody could be, looking around to rob you. And then what do you do with that contract? What do you do with multiple offers? What do so it's presenting, they're offering a problem, you're presenting solutions that have you involved with them, basically. That's an objection. All right, what are your ahas from that?
I just like the breakdown of the objections. It just paints a better picture. I was doing that, but I didn't know the exact like terminology behind it. Obviously, I've had people say, they've had their objections as far as why they're selling for sale by owners, and I would offer like resources to
Mhm.
answer those objections to try to, steer the conversation as to why they should consider the possibility of listing with an agent. So
Well, and honestly, the thing is that for sale by owner, they're already motivated. They're already willing to list their home. So you have two things going for you in a conversation with a sale by owner. The thing that you don't have though, that you really have to build the trust to get is that confidence and trust in saving them money. A lot of times that's exactly what it's about. So can you show them how to net more money and use you? Because typically that's the reason they don't want to work with an agent, or they've had a bad experience with an agent. But they're motivated to sell. So the more questions you ask, the more you have communication and a relationship with them. Yeah, it may take some time, but you're going to be better off talking to for sale by owners versus someone on the street that has no motivation to sell their home, right? So if you do interact with those and that's the route you take, you have to be consistent with providing resources and value for sure. And I think you have to have enough of them to build a pipeline to make it worth your while, for sure. All right, let's talk about the pre-listing packet. We're gonna go from entrepreneurial to purposeful. And when we do that, we focus on models, systems, and breakthroughs. So being entrepreneurial is typically the personality you can think of as someone becoming an agent. You like people, you're outgoing, you don't have any problem having conversation with people, a little charismatic, if you will. That's why most people get into real estate. Most people hit a ceiling several times throughout their developing their business. So the first one is, hey, I got my license. Now what do I do with it? Okay. And then it's, all right, well, I've done a couple of deals. Now, how do I double that? Okay. Well, I've done 20 deals for the last 3 years. How do I do more? You're going to a new level, and it takes it out of your natural abilities and you become purposeful. And you're following someone else's model. You have created a system for yourself, and that allows you to break through to the next level. All right, so pre-listing packet goals. We want to pre-sell. We want to build the seller's confidence. We talked about that. Answer any questions and objections before your presentation. A lot of times, people have a lot of questions, and you asking them what's important to you will help you a lot because they will tell you. Save time. It makes the consultation experience smoother and shorter by tackling common obstacles. So if you go ahead and put that kind of something everyone wants to know, that's your pre-listing. And it states your value, telling the seller what you bring to the table. Again, 90% of agents will not do this. So this can be something that sets you apart. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be who you are, your value proposition, what's, sets you apart as a person. And then again, some of those, what to expect, seller timeline, frequently asked questions, things. You do not want to email, mail, or give anybody their CMA without meeting with them, because what are the odds they could do? Oh, well, here's the price of my home. And then they're like, oh, I'm gonna sell it myself, or they contact their friend that's a realtor and say, oh, here, list it for this. So anybody that you meet with face to face, that's when you present that CMA. That's when you talk about the value of their home. But this is just some kind of commonly asked, here, I'm looking forward to our appointment, here's some materials, value, it kind of shows your value. All right, the criteria. Will you review it during the listing presentation? You could, or it can be some things that are so simple and self-explanatory. Does it eliminate the need for a listing consultation or listing appointment? No.
You should always,
Right.
always.
And why? Why do you need to do a listing presentation?
Because I think the pre-listing packet does have some of the basic needs, but there are things I'm sure that you can, that the seller can provide you that's not listed in the pre-listing packet.
You need things from the seller. You need to know what the property looks like. Listen, and even if you're seeing pictures online, the smell sets it apart.
And it's where you're going.
Yeah, I mean,
The neighborhood, the
You, there's so much you need to know at that appointment. And some of it's obvious and some of it's not. You need to know, do you want to work with this person, right? Is it worth your time? And, it's very, very important. Is it a primer for education that you will provide a listing consultation? Yes, of course, yes, because on those commonly list questions or seller timeline, when you present that to them, they may think they don't have questions, but then they look that over and it starts triggering them thinking.
Mhm.
And you can say, well, based on what I sent you before, what were any questions that you guys had that I could address today? All right, there is one in Command Zones. So this is kind of an example of what it looks like. It's so funny with the buyer one the other day, it went through every page of it.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
So will you mail it, email it, or typically what?
So
do
the
you do?
pre-listing, I would email it over to them.
Email, okay, all right,
And if it's an older couple or something like that, I might would drop it off at their
at
house.
the house. Okay.
Um,
Well, that'll give you an opportunity.
typically,
to-
I would, most everybody right now, day and age, I would send something in an email.
Okay.
And this has several pages in it. You may not want to use all of it.
Okay.
Just use a couple things. And maybe even make it generic enough that, like, I probably wouldn't do first name, last name for every client, because then you can just, you talk to somebody, you could quickly send that over and it'd be generic enough that you can send it to anyone. All right, so the seller consultation preparation checklist, you have delivered the pre-listing packet. We talked about that just being email. You confirm the appointment date, time, and location. I send them a calendar invite. Okay. Ensure all decision makers attend. Please, 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 please don't meet with the husband, not the wife, and the wife, not the husband, and the grandma, not the daughter, whoever. It's very important that everybody's there together.
Mhm.
You want to complete and practice your listing presentation. You want to review your lead sheet. Again, that's in some of the resources here. And arrive at the listing presentation in a professional manner. I just wonder why they had to add number 6. Who is not?
I'm sure.
You know, wear your name tag, look professional. This day and age, things are pretty casual, so it's not like you have to show up in a three-piece suit, but don't look like you're going to work out for sure. What are your ahas from that section?
Just a pre-listing packet, and the follow-up of you saying, making sure even with the packet, you just really need to try to, get a meeting with the potential seller.
Yes.
And
Yes.
just going over and trying to get as much information as possible.
Mhm. And the first thing someone's gonna do, you guys, is they're gonna call you up and they're gonna say, yeah, I wanna know what my home's worth. Or you call them, the first thing they're gonna ask is, okay, well, tell me how much it's worth. And they want it over the phone. Don't do that. You know what? I would love to work up some numbers on your property. Can you give me your address and what would be a good day and time I could come by to preview your home?
Mhm.
That's what you say. Because one, you're not wasting your time. Two, you're not giving away all your info. You want to meet with them and you want to see the
Mhm.
property. And when they say, oh, well, why can't you just pull it up? Well, I could, but I do a better valuation on your home if I'm able to look at it and do it myself. And if they say, well, no, I don't know about that. What would you say about that?
Just try to convince them, it's important for you, for you to come out and. But it's a lot of convincing.
Yeah, well, it's really questions though.
Yeah.
So why do you want to know the value of your home? Okay. Well, why is that important to you? Are you looking to move?
Mhm.
You're getting to their motivation. And once you get to their motivation and then they have hesitancy around meeting, they have an objection. Well, actually, we have several buyers looking in your neighborhood. Could I come and preview the home? And even if you don't want to list with me, I could still share that with our buyer agents in our office. Who would say no to that? Nobody would.
Yeah.
But they think, y'all, people, I don't know if it's the news, what it is, they think real estate's so easy. Oh, I can do it myself. And it's just very complex, especially in the market we're in. This market has never been seen before. So it's tremendously complex. And so us making sure that we're showing our value, having that relationship. It's like a constant thing.
Mhm.
Because everybody thinks it's extremely simple, and it's really not. It's really not. All right, let's talk about that listing appointment. So the goal of the listing appointment is to get your listing agreement signed. You want to create a great impression to build the seller's confidence in you as their real estate agent of choice. You want to share your price recommendation, the initial list price for their property, and your reasoning behind it. That's where your CMA comes in. And you will set the expectations for how you're going to market their home and work with sellers. I said this during the open house session we did, but every listing I take, I say every weekend until we close, I'll do an open house at your home. That sets the tone. I say I'm going to do Facebook ads. I say I'm going to do video walkthroughs. I say I'm going to do a realtor open house, and I'm going to stack our listing, our realtor open house, and that very first open house all together. So I come prepared with a plan. I don't just say, hey, I'm going to put in an MLS. One, that's going to set me apart. Two, it's going to let them know, like, hey, I mean business. And three, very rarely do they want an open house every weekend, but it sounds
It sounds good.
So
Like it's really
good.
working for them.
right. So, after the first two, they typically are like, we want our weekends. We don't want our house to be perfect and immaculate all the time. But you come in hot and say, hey, here are the expectations. Every week I'm going to touch base with you, and I'm going to let you know how many views we got on the website. I'm going to let you know how many people looked at the videos. I'm going to let you know how many showings, what the feedback were. When you set that expectation, it makes you sound super on top of it. But if you come in and say, oh, I want to list your home, I'll put it on MLS, put a sign in the yard. Well, why couldn't they put a sign in the yard? And they can put it on Zillow. So you really want to set yourself apart, and that builds their confidence, like we talked about. All right, let's see. Okay, listing presentation meets sellers' needs and wants. We're not going to do this exercise, but that's where you look through that questionnaire. We have a seller questionnaire, and you look through your listing presentation, and you think about what we talked about today, and you make sure that your listing presentation clearly states the things that typical sellers want. That you know the price of home, you know the market of home, you know how to help them find buyers, and really become a problem solver. That's a lot of what you'll do. All right, your needs come first. This is one of the pages in the listing presentation, and it's really good to talk through. It makes it easy to ask the questions because you don't have to remember them. That's another good thing about a listing presentation. You don't get distracted by what they're saying. You're following along with the intentions. Here is an affirmation. I am knowledgeable and caring and the best agent for these clients. They will appreciate my expertise and preparation and choose me to represent them as they sell their home. It could be nerve-wracking sitting in the car ready to go into a listing presentation. But the more you do, the more comfortable you will feel doing it. I like that affirmation. I wish I had that on my first listing. I was a nervous wreck. So opportunities, of course, anybody that you have as a seller, you want to make sure you have an opportunity in there and you update those phases in there. You want to walk through the listing, ask them questions about the home, tell them that you're going to walk with them, have a notebook and just jot down notes, because if they say, this is my favorite, blah, 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 just make a note of it so that you can then reference it later. You definitely want to mention their favorite bathtub or whatever it is they mention. In the advertising, again, that's just some emotional psychology there, reiterating what's important to them. And you're going to tell them you're going to walk through like a prospective buyer. So as they're talking, you're not talking, you're asking questions maybe, but you're not talking and you're taking notes on what's important to them. You want to do a handwritten note. Thank you for your time, whether they choose you as a listing agent or not. Thank you so much for taking time and showing me your home. We'll keep in touch. This is great, particularly even if they choose to do business with someone else or list it themselves. It's showing your character. All right, let's talk about listing agreement. So the listing agreement, we all have that. It's a matrix, and it's got pertinent details, all of our compliance information. We've got checklist after checklist. of the documents to do. In Instinet, there's a template. So when you go to do the paperwork for them, you can choose a buyer or a listing template and it'll pull all those documents in for you. Make sure anytime there's a price change, that there's a price change everywhere. So the net sheet has to reflect it. Everything has to match. If your sellers say, hey, I want to list this home at $200,000, y'all draft up a listing agreement and it's $200,000, and then they change their mind before it goes live and they change it to $250. That has to be, it all has to be reported. So just make sure that you do that. It's easier for me to work from the template because it's a packet. I'm not sending one document here and one and then trying to collect them all. It's also easier for me to go ahead and do command as I'm doing it. Because if you wait to the end, y'all, there's so many correspondence that come back and forth and back and forth, and some of them are important, some are not important. And then you're trying to search for that one document so you can get paid. So just go ahead and put, as soon as it's signed, try to pull it in, have it all ready and prepared so that you get paid faster. All right, so what are your ahas from today's Win the Seller? Listings roll, buyers roll. I'm just kidding, but for real.
So, I mean, just hearing you talk about the sellers, because this is my first Ignite class. Of course, I should be attending all of them. It just wasn't in here. I had the calendar, but
It's fine. You're good.
thank you. You're good. This is really good information. And just hearing it from you, and as you speak of the seller, always wanting to be motivated. Even my instructor told me, and people that would come in as guest speakers, they always wanted to work with sellers. Nobody really wanted to work with buyers. But the 4 points, the multiple transactions,
That's
what
fine.
really
That's what it
sticks
is.
with me- to me, out of all what you said. With the buyer, 1 transaction. You may get them to refer, you know, but you can potentially get more business from that seller.
Literally from that one deal.
Yeah.
For sure. Listings give you something to market to. So instead of being like, hey, I promise I'm a great agent, I'll help you find a home. You're saying, hey, look at this property I listed.
You actually have
Even when you're
something to
calling
list.
your database, you can say, hey, do you know anybody that would be looking in this area? I got a new listing.
Yes.
You know,
Sounds
that
good.
provides validity to even your database when you're talking to them, because you're not asking them to sell a home. You're asking them to just, do they know somebody that would want to buy in this area? So, or would you mind sharing that on Facebook? It really, it gives you something to do
Yes.
instead of saying, trust me, I'm awesome. I'm an agent. You know?
I think that's
Yeah.
great. Just listening to this information.
Well, and
sounds good.
when you pay for a photographer to do your listing photos, and you should, specifically anything over 200,000 needs a professional photographer.
Okay.
But the photographer I paid on my listing recently, it wasn't cheap. But I asked her, I said, hey, can I reuse these photos for marketing purposes? So yes, it was a cost of sale, as part of the sale of my commission paid for it. But two, I get to use that as branding for myself, you know, and when you have those particularly really nice properties that look top notch, it looks really good for future use as well. So there's multiple ways that you can promote yourself even after the listing purchase using the different listings. And in this market, man, it's a tough one for the buyer's agent, because you're submitting multiple offers and it's very frustrating. So you kind of have the captain seat, and that's what Gary Keller says, as a listing agent. So, all right, let's talk about our ahas to achievement. How has your thinking changed? What ideas or mindsets were new? What do you feel differently about? What was meaningful to you today? How will your behaviors be different going forward? What actions will you take? What tools, models, or systems will you use? And how will they make you accountable? I hope today's session was good for you guys. The next one is a combined buyer and seller session, talking specifically about things in a transaction. That's next Wednesday. And then, like I said, we've only got 5 more to go. So I'm trying to make sure everything is uploaded week after week. So I'll go ahead and upload this one. And then I'll make sure you have the link too. Yeah, I need to come back to it. Chris, I'm gonna, touch base with you this afternoon, okay?
Okay, that works.
See you later.
All right, thank you, Katie.
Um,
Well, I didn't write it,
are we
but.
still recording?